Hi everyone, Quiveen here from the comfort of my kitchen. In today's video, we are going to take a trip to the Southern Hemisphere. So here in the Northern Hemisphere, we are now leaving summertime. We're in autumn. We're heading into wintertime. So of course, down on the other side of the planet, the very opposite is happening. We will look at the sky for here in South America, of course, on the 2nd of October. There is going to be, I suppose, there will have been, by the time this video comes up, there will have been a solar eclipse on the 2nd. So there we go. There's the sun in the east. We'll move back to the start of the night. It's always a little bit disorienting looking south and seeing the stars appear to rotate like that. Of course, I'm used to seeing that happen in the north. So there we are looking south. Everything's upside down, and of course I'm slightly disoriented. I don't know what's what when I'm looking at the sky upside down like this. But we can see that over in the west we've got Venus nice and high in the sky. We've got Saturn. Of course, it's nice and high to the north rather than nice and high to the south. If we move forward in time, we'll get Jupiter. Yep, they're in the northeast. Mars, we can see Jupiter and Mars up over the north. There's the upside down Orion. And turning around to the south here, there are a bunch of constellations that I'm not familiar with. There is the Southern Cross. The Southern Cross at least looks like a cross. And near the Southern Cross, not actually at the Southern Cross, but kind of near it. Yeah, up around here, we've got the midpoint of the sky directly over the South Pole. Maybe that's the Southern Cross. One way to know for sure. Yeah, that looks like a cross. And if we bring up the images, there we go. Yes, that's the Southern Cross. So we can see the Southern Cross kind of pointing roughly at the location where the sky rotates for the southern sky, but there isn't really a pole star for the southern pole, the way we have the North Pole star here in the north. If you are lucky enough to be down in the Southern Hemisphere, there is a slightly better chance that you'll be near a dark sky than if you live in the Northern Hemisphere. There's a lot more ocean in the Southern Hemisphere, and nobody builds buildings on the oceans, not yet at least. So we can see that lovely glow of the Milky Way. We can see the large and small Magellanic Clouds, which of course may get renamed. There's Orion's sword pointing up into the sky. Which looks very strange. The Pleiades are there and they are upside down, which is a little strange as well. It's strange to see things this way. What we'll do is we'll come back to sunset for the Southern Hemisphere. There we go. There is the core, pretty much, of the Milky Way. So even though we are down right at the tip of Tierra del Fuego, way down at the bottom of Chile and Argentina, at the bottom of the South American continent, we are about as far south as you can get without going to Antarctica, but we're still seeing a lot more of the central portion of the Milky Way here compared to what we'd be seeing in Ireland. We are further north than this is south, so we can see the glow of the Milky Way there. It's not directly behind the sun yet. We're still moving, well, in the Southern Hemisphere, moving towards summer rather than moving towards winter. So we don't get to see the core of the Milky Way in winter. In the Southern Hemisphere, they don't get to see the core of the Milky Way in summer. So they're getting this view just as the sun goes down. Closer to the equator, it is even more impressive. So we'll hop around to a couple of other locations in the Southern Hemisphere. I like showing the sky from way down here in the south of South America, just because it is so extreme. It's about as south as you can get. So we'll hop over here, just where the coast of Australia bends there around Adelaide, which has a nice bay that isn't quite visible with the level of magnification that that map provides. We're not as far south as Australia can get. We're not at the southernmost point of Australia, down on the island of Tasmania. We are still we're in the Southern Hemisphere, but it's just not that far, not as far south as we are north here in Ireland. So we're still seeing the lovely glow of the Milky Way. We've still got our cross there. We've still got the large and small Magellanic Clouds. And looking around, this is all the outer of the Milky Way. We're looking in the morning. Still got Mars, still got Jupiter, Uranus, the upside down Pleiades. We can see that Orion is that little bit higher in the sky, as is Jupiter. So the same way that we see Orion reasonably low in the sky because we're not too close to the equator, whether you're in the Southern Hemisphere or the Northern Hemisphere. If you get a little bit closer to the equator, you'll see that a little bit more. So here we go. Well, there's two of the stars in the summer triangle, Altair and Vega. And there's the core of the Milky Way almost directly above the west. So we can really see all of those kind of lovely colors. And we're really seeing the middle of the Milky Way here. We can see that bulge even. These are stars that we would see in the Northern Hemisphere. But for us in Ireland, Sagittarius, which is around here. It's so hard to tell when it's not even upside down, but lying on its side compared to what I am used to seeing. If I bring up the constellations, which I'll have to do really to help myself. Yeah, there's Sagittarius. So up here, that's the teapot shape. And then down over here, we've got Scorpius, the scorpion. We can see all of the tail of Scorpius. So our horizon would be pretty much here in comparison, blocking out most of the scorpion with Sagittarius still visible. And this is, again, pretty far south, but we can see the glow of the Milky Way is almost overhead here. The equator is about here, so coming up into South Africa, or even if we went to Northern Australia here, you'd get to see a little bit more of the ecliptic. The ecliptic would be closer to overhead, not as low in the sky. If we come up to around here, that's pretty close to the equator. Yeah, still in the Southern Hemisphere, 7 degrees south. We'll go a little bit further south. So we're there in Brazil. And if we let the sun go down, looking into the west, there we go. So we can see a little bit, it's a little bit more tilted there. There is Scorpius, the scorpion. Looking south now, there's Sagittarius. We can still see the one of the Magellanic Clouds there. And coming around to the north, we've got the summer triangle. So now that we're in the Southern Hemisphere, we're seeing the summer triangle in the north, whereas we normally see it in the south. Same with Delphinus there. Because we're so close to the equator, Saturn practically looks overhead. Let's see how visible Venus is. There we go. So we can see Venus nice and far from the setting sun, nice and high in the sky, because the ecliptic is almost going straight overhead because we're at the equator. And even though the Earth's equator and the sun's equator don't point in exactly the same direction, they're pretty close. And that does make a big difference to how we see the planets. There's Mars and Jupiter. And again, they'll be going really, really high in the sky as the sun rises. So there we go. And we can see how high they are in the sky compared to where we would see them. We'd see them looking south here in Ireland, and they'd be closer to, there in the sky. They're much, much higher if you're closer to the equator. So we can see that the sky is changing for the Southern Hemisphere, just as it is for us in many ways. The core of the Milky Way will be disappearing behind the sun, just like it is for us. But because the Southern Hemisphere is in the Southern Hemisphere, they're going to be moving into summer when they lose the glow of the Milky Way. During winter for the Southern Hemisphere, the glow of the Milky Way is closer to overhead, which may be a slightly better deal than what we get here in the Northern Hemisphere, because we don't get to see the glow of the Milky Way during our long winter nights. So we can see some of the shared constellations here. So we're seeing a lot of the constellations that we see in the Northern Hemisphere. We're even seeing Draco and Cepheus and Cassiopeia there. Those are stars that are close to the North Pole star, so they're quite low in the sky. You can see Corona Borealis because we're still pretty close to the equator. The Northern Hemisphere is just around the corner if you're only at 7 degrees south. If we push further down into the Southern Hemisphere again, that huge jump, and we're down here 52, 54 right at the tip. That's about as far south as Ireland is north. We're here at about 52 degrees north. We leave the sun go down. There it is, the sun before it's after rising. So now looking into the south, we're seeing all of these different constellations. We can see quite a few of them. And if we turn around to the north, the shared constellations, they're really skirting the horizon. So we're just barely seeing the zodiacal constellations there with Jupiter and Uranus and Eve. As soon as we lean back even a little bit, it's those Southern Hemisphere constellations that we wouldn't see here in the north. We don't get to see Uranus. It disappears below our horizon. We certainly don't get to see Horologium, the clock there. Those are things that are completely out of view for us. And if, oh, that's the sun coming back up, we'll push backwards to get Saturn into the sky. And yeah, the Corona Borealis doesn't seem to be visible from here at all. So we're now far enough south that we're completely missing it. Because we're looking at the sky closer to sunset here, we're seeing the ecliptic just that little bit higher going across the sky, so we can see a few more of the shared constellations. But still, now that we're as far south as Ireland is north, the sky is dominated by these more unfamiliar pictures in the sky. So, I hope you enjoyed this quick look into the Southern Hemisphere. If you're from the Southern Hemisphere, then of course this is what you're familiar with, and I hope you enjoyed seeing it get talked about. Of course, a lot of astronomy and many things in the world are dominated by the Northern Hemisphere, but it's good to take a look down south every now and again as well. So if you did enjoy this video, please do like it. If you'd like to read some of this information, you can head to my website, queebeanscontent.ie, and if you'd like to see more of this kind of content, please do subscribe to my channel, and hopefully I'll see you back here next time.